in the box. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my Newb to Warlord series, fighting series. I'm Warlord Magni, and today we're going to learn about combat computer. So a combat computer in its very fundamental point is to understand like how to control or limit your subconscious and conscious behaviors, as well as like improve your data and command processing, right? So it's all about your brain. That's your combat computer, right? And so when you're fighting, we're fighting or whatever, there's a bunch of information that we can get from what's going on, and then what information do I use? How do I respond and set up a series of commands, right, to execute a win, okay? So first, I think the data and command processing is the most fundamental and important point of combat computing, or a combat computer class. So there's a series of things that we have to establish. So first, you need to be able to see what's happening and what's going on in a fight. If I'm fighting Crown Guard here, and Crown Guard just throws like a wicked combo, and I don't even have time to respond, right? I'm not even processing what's happening. So there's that level of understanding that you need to be able to gain to begin to build your skills and your computer. Additionally, once you begin to see different things, you become a more experienced fighter, you can begin to see this data and you can predict what's going on, right? If we're always fighting just single stick, right? And if I know every time I fake for a high cross, Crown Guard throws that big that big block up, I can leverage that to predict, okay, if I throw hook, boom, done, right? I can get a kill from that. Or there's, in Sword and Board, I don't have my board with me, it's over there. A lot of people really like the high cross, right? And so there's a very common, I need the other one. This. There's a very common instinct when fighting people in Sword and Board is if you fake, right, people will just go in this back and forth high cross. Nobody expects the 10th high cross, whatever. So being able to predict what's going to happen from that, looking at people, looking at their stance, right? So if we just go on our natural stances, seeing that, okay, Crown Guard's foot, his sword foot is forward, so this is traditionally a more aggressive stance, and I can predict a couple of shots that he's going to have from this area. I mean, without ever coming up against Crown Guard, for example, with me, there's going to be my sword side hip that's going to be open, or probably going to go for my sword side arm, right? So those are going to be easy or high probability shots that he's going to go for. So that's kind of where I'm going to try to block, where, all right, we're up here and, or, trying to block this side and really rely on countering or something like that. So once you begin to see these different, you're able to get this data, you build these models, and you can also do this over a series of fights. For example, look at my adaptation class. This kind of builds up on this combat computer of adapting to the different data that you get within a given fight or over a series of fights. But you can begin to build plans, right? So if we're here and I know, after a series of fights, say Crown Guard really likes to go for this money shot, right? Okay, I know I need to like block, so throw the shot. I can step, throw, or I can step out and, counter that. You can also begin to build combos off of this where, okay, flick, throw. You're getting data, and then you're queuing a series of attacks and defenses to counteract that or really to win. Execution of your plans is really important, right? You can say, oh, I'm going to do this super cool combo, but you can't execute it. Well, it doesn't really do you a lot of good. Additionally, being able to troubleshoot in a fight is really important, right? So, oh, okay, I can say, looking at Crown Guard wearing our guard, I'm going to go for that fake for like the shield side shoulder. You know, ideally, Crown Guard's going to like bring the board up, and then I can, you know, throw either for the slot shot or for the hip. But if while I'm doing this, every time I like cue this up and Crown Guard snipes my arm, I have to be able to troubleshoot that. How do I respond? What is like my plan B, right? So maybe I'll be a fake cross and then, oh, this isn't a good spot, disengage, reset, you know, change my footwork up, spin, you know, whatever. Trying to actively troubleshoot in what's going on is going to go a really long way in your fighting. I would say very rarely does plan A ever go as expected. So having a couple things in your pocket, for example, if you go single sword, this is really where your multiple options really come in handy. Because, okay, I fake. All right, what's going to happen? I like to throw a series of shots that give me, that wind myself up for a series of successive shots. Right, so if I throw here, okay, I'm blocked. I can go here, throw up, and then out, right? And every shot, I'm winding myself up, and I'm also blocking most of my body. So that's kind of like a big portion of my plan. Also in single sword, I'm doing a series of fakes of like here. So what I did there is I threw my equipment to my right, but I moved my body to my left. So that gives two confusing pieces of information of what's going to happen. So I'm actually jamming up my opponent's combat computer, right? Now, if I step here, okay, Crown Guard moves, I can, you know, throw, or if instead we reset, the Crown Guard goes towards my equipment, I'm already set up, right? So beginning to leverage your data that you get in a fight and learning how to cue a series of commands and control the fight from a mental level, not just what's happening in the hand and or like in the physical game. So this is all great to talk about this in a high level, but I think some important things is to optimize the data, somewhat limit the data that you're taking in, and also the outputs that you're thinking about. So for inputs, I think the biggest thing is focusing on the correct things. When people start and we're fighting, you know, I remember when I started this game, I would watch the sword, but that's actually not good, because if I'm watching the sword, I have to trace everything. Okay, yeah, the sword is going to be the thing that's going to hit me, but this is really fast. It's like, oh, you get lost and overloaded really, really quickly. Instead, I prefer to focus on the center of the shoulders, the hips, or here, let's... I like to focus on like the center of the shoulders, the hips, and I've also heard people like to focus on the feet, because depending on what footwork or stance people have, then that kind of gives you an example. It gives you information on what they have, where they can move. Okay, but if people generate all their power in their shoulders versus their hips or their feet, if you focus at their feet and everybody generate, or whoever you're fighting generates their power from their shoulders, their feet doesn't, like, you're looking at the wrong thing. Does that make sense? A little bit? Okay.
They're bad.
Yeah. But I like to generate power from all parts of my body, so nobody it makes it really difficult for somebody to say, oh, I know what you're going to do by looking at my hips. Oh, okay, I'm going to use a lot of my foot or my footwork or a lot of my shoulders to throw you off, right? So just looking in a broad sense of shoulders, hips, feet, looking back and seeing what's going to happen. This typically happens in your C range where you're not actually engaging, you're assessing the situation. Additionally, when you focus on like the center mass is not going to move as much. It takes a lot of energy to get that out of the way. Whereas, right, like the hands move super fast. But additionally, the focal point of wherever you're looking takes more processing time in your brain than the peripheries. Your periphery vision or your peripheral vision operates at like 15 times the speed of your center vision. So that's just a little bit of psychology for you, or anatomy, whatever. Science. Yeah, physiology, thanks. I'm a doctor. For you to know, right? And then also in optimization of your data input and your output is really doing the assessment. I already kind of touched up on this, is, you know, stepping back and seeing, all right, what is Crown Guard's guard? What is his stance? Okay, his stick is down here at a low guard. What does that kind of give him an advantage to? I'm going to focus on that in a separate video, so just keep your eyes out for that. But going forward, right now, thinking about our outputs, you want to optimize really where your brain is spending all of its energy, its conscious mental energy. And so I think the first and most important thing is to build muscle memory. If when you're in a fight and you're having to think about like, oh, I need to throw a high cross, how do I throw a high cross, right? Like, all right, I need to come up, over, throw, and then like flip. All right, that's, if you're spending a lot of mental space on that, it's going to be really difficult for you to fight and win a fight at higher levels. Or, you know, oh, I need to throw money. All right, yeah, I'm going to do this setup and right, whatever. Your brain is more focused on the shot than what's happening or building a plan and executing. And so you're just going to be out computed by somebody else or out timed, outperformed. So build muscle memory, do drills, do spars, practice. These are going to be the things that are going to build your muscle memory. How to throw a spot, how to throw a shot, how to respond to certain shots, right? Where to block. You're going to build your reflexes. I think block strikes are a great way to begin to build this up. I don't think it's the end all be all. Go check out a series of my other videos on the basic categories for basic fighting and then day one fundamentals. It's a great way to establish some of your body mechanics. But for example, block strike really fast is wearing guard. I throw, Crown Guard throws, and then I block, right? You do a series of different body locations or shot locations. What else? Right, increase your reflexes. This is really going to be your on lifetime, real-time troubleshooting and blocking, right, and where to throw. So again, going to like the block strike, if we always throw, you know, at hands and you know, this one spot, that's great. You build a lot of expertise for that one location, but that's not how a fight works, right? So, you know, here we are. Yeah, oh, I messed up. But, you know, vary it up. Yeah, right, stuff like that. Changing the shot locations, using footwork to maneuver out, right? Whatever. That's going to take a lot of practice. I recommend drilling it. Get yourself a fighting buddy to really just grind it out. What else? Lastly, right, with the data output, I think people, when fighting, their headspace should mostly be in the planning stage of what a fight is happening or where a fight is happening, right? We shouldn't be focused on, where am I blocking, where am I throwing, stuff like that, but saying, okay, this is my guard, here I am, what's happening, what is Crown Guard doing, we're rotating here, how do I get an opening? Um, if I throw, if I throw a series of different shots, what combo can I throw? Can I fake out to get an opening, to get Crown Guard to move their guard out of the way? Um, and it doesn't always have to be dynamic. It can be very subtle where, all right, I'm going to come over, just moving my body. A lot of people will begin to trace your body and they'll lower their guard. I keep my guard in the same place and just a super easy straight chop. So really focus in, once you have all those fundamentals down of your reflexes and your muscle memory and your shots, and like building your combos, try to work on planning a fight out. And then when plans don't go your way, having your backup plans in a place that you're still able to come out with a win. So I also mentioned earlier, going forward, I mentioned about controlling your subconscious and your conscious movements. I think this is one of the biggest issues in combat computing, or like in the mental space of a game, right? Because if I subconsciously, every time I throw a shot, I subconsciously, pull back like I'm loaded and then I throw, that's a tell, right? So when you give your opponent a tell, they already know how to respond. They have initial information. So looking out for tells is really important, but getting your tells out of the way. So really, you need a level of self-awareness to help limit your tells and limit the information that you're giving to your opponent, right? So if I know every time I throw, if we're in Swordboard, I actually had this problem when I started out or when I started getting better, is, I would very easily get into this high cross grind where somebody would throw, oh, I'm here, right? Am I going to be able to out high cross, Crown Guard or whomever? Break that habit. So to break habits, you have to realize, one, you're in a habit, you formed a habit, and so you need to be aware of it, and then you need to make conscious efforts to break it. And I think the best way to do that is through repetition. If if you're practicing on breaking the high cross instinct, every time somebody throws a high cross, okay, I'm going to back out, or I'm going to spend mental energy to throw, a straight chop, or throw money, or throw a dark side, trying to build that memory to break that habit. Self-awareness is really going to go a really, really long way. Low to troubleshoot. Oh, learn to troubleshoot. Lastly, with controlling your subconscious and, just going beyond like your self-awareness, you want to build an infrastructure in your brain that you don't have to think about everything that's going on, right? Like I've already said, and I've kind of hopefully iterated to death at this point, of your brain should really be focused on the plan and what's happening in this combat. Building the muscle memory, building the techniques to respond without having to think about it, right, is going to go a really, really long way. And so there's some common tropes that I see people have in this space where, okay, I think the first one is, and the most common is, you walk into a fight, here we are, and we do some things and I died. And if I asked you what happened, people are like, I don't know. Right? So that's a problem of self-awareness, and you're not being able to see actually what's happening. So with that, you're going to have to increase your data input skills. This is a harder thing to do. You're going to have to, the way I did it probably isn't the best way for everybody, but I just grounded out more. I just did more fights and fought progressively higher and higher people to where I could now see what's happening, to build that like mind connection. The other trope is seeing what's happening. Like, we're fighting, I can see the sword going in the place, but I cannot move. I cannot respond to that. Right. So that's a mind muscle connection issue. And so you have to build your reflexes. I think drills are the easiest applicable spot for this, right? Because you already have the mental computation power. Now you only have to respond, right? To get the block, to get the shot. And so again, grinding it out. I think like playing high input games, if you play video games, doing like a high fast paced first person shooter, or, like, I'm guessing League of Legends, I've heard, is sometimes like overwhelming. Or, find yourself somebody that fights at a very similar level as you, and then climb up together, increase that intensity, and then, step yourselves up, go try to fight, travel, find new people, and fight at their level, and then go up higher and higher until, you're really at this top tier. I know this is a really conceptual class, and I hope everybody was able to take something away from it. That's all I kind of have prepared for the combat computer. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them afterwards, or put comments down below. But thank you all for your time and attention, and I'm happy to see you at the next Newb to Warlord series. Thanks.